Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Okay, that's good.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Everything's going through well.
Thanks for tuning in again.
We're going right into it.
Yeah, are we recording now?
Oh, we are. No, like warm up or like lubrication. We're just gonna jam right into the show.
Oh my God! Just tap dancing into the gutter again. We are. This is welcome to the all new High and Lowbrow podcast. You are witnesses to the greatest bloodless coup in the history of podcasting. I am your host, James Gillum. With me is my unpaid intern, Matt Gamble.
Hello.
How are you?
The tables have turned.
Right. No, just kidding. This is James and my friend and co-host, Matt Gamble, Magic Matt Gamble. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing good.
Good. It's a beautiful day. Maybe a little humid, but we are here in the cool, comforting confines of Matt's basement, complete with illuminated Darth Vader mask, Tauntaun replica, and blue LED lights, and Lazarus Effect issue safety candles. I'm pleased that you've joined us again. Today we're discussing the 1986 masterpiece, to my mind, Willow, directed by Ron Howard.
Did you just call it a masterpiece?
I said masterpiece to my mind.
Okay. Interesting.
But before we jump in, do you have anything you want to share?
Not much. About to publicly shame my wife on Facebook over the Xbox controller because I think it's funny. And she's going to yell at me. Possibly during the recording of this show.
All right. For me, my week's been interesting. I have a story to tell.
Okay.
Matt doesn't know the story. He doesn't know the whole story. But I thought by way of a personal update, I would let the listeners know that I have a new car. My Impala died.
You did post a few updates.
If you're united with me on Facebook, you would have maybe seen my Impala on the back of a Mark's Towing flatbed tow truck, where they retrieved it from the side of the highway Monday morning at about 8 o'clock because it died on my way to work. About 2 months ago, I found out that I have to replace numerous things on the car. Prevented me from going to Canada to see the premiere of Jay Cheel's latest documentary, How to Build a Time Machine.
Yep. And that was, you and I and Angela, we were all looking forward to that. You were going to meet us up there.
Yeah, I was going to drive.
Yep. And we were very excited. Like, I hadn't been to Toronto ever. I don't know had you ever been to Toronto?
No, been to Windsor, but not Toronto.
Yeah. That sucked. Like, that was 10 days before or something like that? It wasn't far before, maybe 2 weeks.
It was pretty disappointing to me.
Yep.
Felt like I let everybody down.
You did not. Like, your car did.
Yeah,
your
I know.
shitty car.
But I felt bad. And I had booked 3 separate hotels.
Oh, yeah, I remember you told me
Only one of which would refund my money.
That's such horse shit.
Yeah, it was pretty
Because it
painful.
was enough time they could book that again. Like that, it's not like you were saying like 24 hours out.
No.
It was, I think, at least 2, if not 3 weeks.
Yeah, but I stupidly paid a lower rate in order to have non-refundable because I thought, well, what could possibly interrupt my plans?
Yeah.
Anyway.
How much did you save doing the lower rate?
For one hotel,
yeah,
it was $8 a night.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, see, here you go. Now you can at least impart some wise advice.
Yeah, I took something away from it, learned a little thing or two about booking hotel rooms. So
They will fuck you.
long story short, I didn't get to go to Canada. I was driving my car knowing that it was one day going to fail me permanently. However, one of the repairs had to be done by the beginning of next winter. So I thought, well, I've at least got the rest of the summer. And about 2 months after deciding that, the transmission went.
Oh.
So it was
Which
leaky.
is a huge expense.
Yeah, so I just got rid of the car, and I got a new one. But anyway, that's not the entire story.
Okay.
The entire story is
Yeah.
I was pulled over on the side of the road with the help of MnDOT. They got me off of the highway, MnDOT being the Minnesota Department of Transportation. And a state trooper stopped to check on me, and I said I was fine. I was waiting for a tow truck. And then a Toyota Prius pulls up in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Who could this be, I say? From the car, my knight in shining armor
Okay.
stopped on the side of the road to help me. Mickey Stevens, son of loyal listener Mark Stevens. Now, isn't that interesting?
That's good stuff.
Yeah, that was incredible. I saw him come out of the car, and I said, Mickey. And he said, oh, well, James, how are you? You need help? Do you need a ride somewhere? And he was really great of him to stop. He actually drove past me, realized it was me,
And
got off the highway, circled back.
That's very nice of him.
Yeah, a real mensch. And anyway, I had the tow truck on the way, so I thanked him. And yeah, loyal listener, science fiction aficionado, proud blue Wisconsinite.
And Kurt Halford hater.
Mark Stevens. So that was really interesting. But yeah, so
That's great. That's awesome.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Very what'd you call it? Would you call that irony? You would call it a coincidence, right?
I would say more. Yeah, it's coincidence. Like I think people would say it's ironic, but I don't think it actually.
Yeah, I don't see the irony, but it sounds like it should be ironic.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add? What are you into? What books? What comics? What games might you be playing?
I am.
Is this your segment?
We can do my segment. I don't really have a name for my segment, but we can kind of go over stuff. I haven't really played much in the last week. I played a lot of Overwatch when it came out, which is Blizzard's new shooter, and I've been playing, as I've been playing for like 2 years, a lot of Destiny. But I haven't played much in the last. Oh no, we got Mirror's Edge. That just came out. Angela's crushing it.
This is a video game.
Yeah, it's a video game where it's all first person and it's kind of like a parkour style game. There is fighting, but you don't have to fight. Like you're running around the city and you deliver stuff, and you're kind of an industrial spy-ish kind of thing.
Oh.
And it's a remake of the original game that came out, I think, 8 years ago. And
it was called what? Over?
It's called this is Mirror's Edge.
Oh, Mirror's Edge.
And I thought Angela would like it. Like generally she doesn't like first person, but she likes games that don't do a lot of like hand-to-hand combat. And she likes stuff like it's kind of puzzle based to a degree.
Oh.
And she tends to like games like that too. And I ordered it for her. Like I pre-ordered it, I don't know, a year ago, and it got delayed a little, and it finally came out. And she is so far ahead of me, it's not even funny. Like she has loved it, and I'm glad she does, because she doesn't have as many games. It's a game that is not like the style of how you do it is very different than how you play most games. You're using a lot of the breakers and like the trigger switches rather than the regular buttons, it's just a different style of using the controller. And in general, like she's not super trusting of new games. Like she has what she likes, and she doesn't like to stray from it too much.
Right.
Because she has, and I think a lot of us do, but like she hasn't been a hardcore gamer till probably in the last 5 years or so. Like the Wii is what got her into gaming. And so like she always has this fear like she's not good enough at it, so she doesn't like there's certain games she is good at, and she likes to stick to those, and she has fun with them. And anything outside of that, she likes to avoid. But for this, she's been all over it. She loves it.
Mirror's Edge.
Yep.
I think we should call this What Has Matt Been At?
We can do that.
What is he involved in?
Yeah. I pre-ordered a couple comics.
Oh, okay.
Which will come out next month. Because I don't do a lot of floppies anymore. I haven't done floppies in a while, really.
Does that mean real comic book?
Floppy is, a single issue comic.
Oh, okay.
Because it's floppy.
Right.
I tend to do trades, which is 5 to 7 issues at a time. So it's a whole storyline. And they come out roughly once every 9-10 months or so. So you may get 2 a year sometimes. Otherwise, you get them. They're broken out further out.
Okay.
And so I ordered. Actually, let me see if I can find. I think I might have actually ordered 3. I ordered Rat Queens, which is actually out. Rat Queens Volume 3, I think. Yeah, Rat Queens Volume 3, which will arrive in a couple days. I'm super excited for that. It's a fantasy comic, except it's all women that are in charge of it. They call themselves the Rat Queens. And, like, one's a dwarf, one is a necromancer, one's a sorcerer, one's a fighter, or actually one's kind of a thief. And it's super fun. Like, it's funny and super nerdy, and it's a lot of fun to read. And then I ordered Bitch Planet Volume 2, which is... the first Bitch Planet trade is fucking awesome. It's great. It is a hardcore feminist comic book. Like, angry feminist comic book. And it's awesome. And it reminds me a lot of Transmetropolitan, and like reading it feels to me like this is probably like the female version of Transmetropolitan.
What's that? I don't know.
Transmetropolitan was written by Warren Ellis probably 15 years ago. It had the main character is Spider Jerusalem,
I've heard that name.
Bald with like red and green sunglasses.
Okay.
And he is like, it takes place, I don't know how far in the future, hundreds of years in the future, when media and like news basically doesn't exist anymore. It's all entertainment now. And he is the only like remaining actual journalist that is like an investigative reporter. And it's him like following, he's very much a Hunter S. Thompson-esque kind of character, where he's cranked up on drugs and he's angry and stuff like this, but he's in this kind of future not steampunk, but like cyberpunk world. And it's essentially him covering an election campaign. And it's super angry and funny and just totally off the wall, and it's a blast.
Weren't you talking about having a Spider Jerusalem tattoo for a while?
Potentially. Like I like the character a lot.
Maybe that's where you mentioned him before.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else interesting? Anything else going on? You have your finger on the pulse of popular culture.
I do.
I have to excuse myself for a moment.
Yeah.
Oh, did we pause?
No, we're going to just let it go. All
right.
We're good.
I have to go to the bathroom. It's terrible. I hate it.
You're fine.
I know, but I'm ashamed to go.
Why? Mm-hmm.
Okay, do we have to start over?
No, we can start up. Okay. I'll write the timestamp. Your movie's downloaded.
Oh, wow. That's really something. Are we recording now?
Yeah, I never stopped. So I just recorded the timestamps for you.
You never stopped?
No. So you'll just have to cut it out.
Okay. Oh, I'm a disgusting animal.
That is not true.
Oh. I interrupted your...
No, I mean, yeah, the only other thing...
Your lovely wife's evening toilette and invaded the bathroom.
Okay. What was she doing?
Her evening toilette. She was brushing her teeth, preparing, for...
Toilette?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a polite way of saying she's preparing for... she's... What are they, powdering her nose? Yes. And I have a manly
dashed
toilet.
in and dropped your pants and...
No.
Yelled at her to get the fuck out.
No. We almost had a repeat of the winter 2010 to 2011. Where I madly...
The sink is right there.
Ran to the bathroom in the middle of the night, hoping to ease my bladder, only to find Matt showering after midnight.
Yeah.
Like Hugh Hefner.
I don't understand why that makes me Hugh Hefner.
I don't understand.
Hugh Hefner showers after midnight?
Yeah. Hugh Hefner and other guys like that,
I don't understand what that means.
I think you do. So anyway.
So I'd probably come home from work, wanted to shower,
right.
And somehow
you have no
I'm
right.
some sort of sex fiend that's cleaning off his filth.
Oh, it was almost, yeah. I believe.
Can we finish the rest of that story, though? What happened? You went outside then.
We've already committed this to
so good, though.
To the digital medium.
It's so good.
I ran outside to urinate in the backyard.
Yep, and the security lights came on.
Because we live in picturesque
North Minneapolis.
Nouveau Riche. North Minneapolis.
Yep.
The security lights went on, not only on your house, but as I ran to the other side of the yard, someone else's security lights came on. And I ran back into the house, and then as I ran towards the wash basin in the basement to micturate in the laundry tub, I wet my pants.
That's good stuff. And then you proceeded to tell me you were doing your laundry.
At 1 a.m. What do you say? At that point?
I don't know. Who knows what you're
right. While you're recreating a scene from Boogie Nights in the bathroom, I wet myself on your basement floor.
It'll never stop being funny. Ever.
And we just almost had a repeat of that.
Okay.
It was... So, what else have you been doing?
No, the only other thing I got is Convergence is coming up in a couple weeks.
Oh, that's right. The big science fiction convention.
Yep. I'm on 7 panels this year.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Do you know what the panels are?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you must. That was a stupid
I have
question.
a big list, but I'm on 3 or 4 the first day, like on Thursday, and then like 1 each day after that.
How long does it run? 4 days?
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh. Are there guests of honor this year? Is there a theme?
Yeah, the theme is like travel.
Oh.
Which is...
It's precise.
Yeah, it's that's one way of putting it. It's not great.
Okay. I hope to attend Diversicon.
Yeah.
I think it's next month or early August.
I don't know who they say is.
Are there still tickets for Convergence?
Oh, yeah. They sell and sell and sell. I don't know who here is actually the guest of honor. They don't really, it doesn't say. Several of these people are here all the time, so I don't know who is guest of honor and who is not. But, oh well. But
well,
yeah, prepping for 7 freaking panels.
Jeez. You kind of jumped in with both feet panel-wise. I mean, you're like into participating in panels.
Yeah, I like panels a lot. I think they're fun.
I like just watching, I don't I very rarely contribute, but I've never been on a panel.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I take part in the planning meetings for the panels too, it's okay.
There's just a bunch of people sitting around their stocking feet eating nachos and stuff.
Basically just shouting out, let's do a panel on this, let's do a panel on that. For like 2-3 hours.
Is there a panel that like jumps out at you as one you have to attend this year?
Have to attend?
A must see?
I haven't gone over enough. I've been focusing more on which ones I gotta be at. There's a couple, like, I'm going to miss the mega panel this year because I am on a panel at the same time, which kind of sucks.
What's the mega panel this year?
The mega panel is basically a big giant panel where they just... It was created to work across from... whatever it is. They have their, like, fashion show that everyone goes to in the main hall.
The costume ball?
Yeah. And so the mega panel was the panel that used to run opposite of that. So people that didn't care about the costume ball could go to just a panel, and it's just general pop culture, and it's usually a lot of the people that have, like, a lot of the people on the mega panel have been a part of Convergence for years, and it's just kind of, it's very laid back and goofy, and tends to be pretty fun, and it also tends to be really well attended, and the fact and they keep adding more and more and more panels, like. And that you're running opposite that and everything else, it's just like there's not going to be anybody at that panel, which sucks. But the good thing this year is I don't have any like last year. I think I had 2 or 3 panels that were after like 10 o'clock.
Oh my gosh!
Which just blew. Like
they run that late.
Oh god, yeah. The last panel started 11, and when they're that late, like Convergence is a fairly big party convention. People usually start drinking around 9 o'clock. So by 11 o'clock, the people that are actually showing up, because now the parties are well underway, like you may get a handful of people that show up, and then like you may or may not have all your panelists show up. The ones that do show up may be drunk. Like it's just like fuck. Like it's just. I did one of them last year. It was supposed to be 5 people, and then just one other guy showed up, and he was fucking sloppy drunk.
Oh, boy.
Just hammered.
What was the subject, do you recall?
It was a movie panel. I don't quite remember what. It was, I don't remember, but yeah.
Well, what do I have to contribute?
Do you have any humor highlights?
I do. I prepared a single humor highlight this week. It's not my highlight. I know that I originally set out to provide an original humorous work for each episode. I succeeded on the first 2 episodes, failed completely on the 3rd episode. Or, excuse me, I'm not supposed to speak in sequence.
Well, I think the first 4, we've kind of let the cat out of like it's pretty obvious.
Okay, well,
I think after this, when we start up with our next theme, like the way to do it is we can say what the theme is, but we don't talk about what the other movies are, because that is where we trip ourselves up. Because we'll say, well, we watched this one, and then we did this one, and then we did we can kind of it's just whatever we're doing on that episode, and not talking about everything else in the other episodes, if that makes sense.
Okay, sure. Then this humor highlight is based on the idea that a sense of humor is a developed sense. Okay?
Okay.
So you can argue about our, I guess, innate senses, their origin, exactly if we are born with them, if we acquire them, whatever. A sense of humor, I think we can fairly say, is something that a person acquires over time. Not only the ability to be funny, but also the ability to find the humorous in the mundane. Okay? The other night I was looking at the internet. I was not, as we called it in the 90s, surfing the web, because I always believed that surfing the web was sort of following links.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I mean, that's how it used to be. Like, you couldn't Google was not the way people originally
Right.
traversed the web. Like you went link to link to link.
Mm-hmm. You sort of started off at somebody's Angel Fire website.
Yeah, or Alta Vista or whatever.
I loved Alta Vista. But anyway, I kind of, when I'm engaging in these long internet sessions, I sort of search by association. Something will lead me to one place, another will lead me to another place. I don't remember what brought me to menshealth.com, but I found myself reading an article on the importance of using antibacterial soap when washing your underarms and genitals.
Okay.
And in the comments section, Darcy Marie Branche of Eastfield College writes, she doesn't like hairy armpits. Quote, "Shave those jokers down a bit. All of that bushed out hair doesn't prove you're a man. It looks gross and can be stinky and keeps your deodorant/antiperspirant from actually coming in contact with your pit. All of that body hair just isn't necessary. LOL." To which a user calling himself Zevcom and using as an avatar a photograph of a kind of dumpy looking old man responds, "Most women love the stinky taste." And in reply to Zevcom, Rod Deal, a self-employed digital technician, writes, "My nigga." I thought that was terrific. And as just kind of a bonus, later on in response to Zevcom's assertion that women like the stinky taste, Benjamin Kettler of the University of Fraser Valley simply wrote, "Ew." And Carolyn Hardy, who describes herself as a warrior of heaven, in all capital letters wrote, "You are an old, sick, demented psycho old man. You are sick." And Sabina Christensen of Herning, Denmark wrote, "I'm so glad I'm gay. You got no idea how glad I am. Girls smell much better and shave their armpits and all that stuff." And finally, Alfred Mendez, in response to Zevcom, simply wrote, "Doubt it. Humor highlights." Now, you found that whole exchange humorous, right?
I don't know about the whole exchange, but a good chunk of it, yes.
Okay. What part didn't you find humorous? Just the sort of matter-of-fact parts? Or
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, I enjoy more, like, the pithy responses. That's what I find funny, rather than the general back and forth.
like the "you're sick," that kind of thing?
Yeah.
I thought when the guy writes "my nigga" and puts 3 exclamation points after it, that was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also find it amusing when people think like someone's avatar photo is actually them.
Right.
Like the lady's like, "You're an old man." Like, I always find that amusing.
Yeah.
People still do that now when like it could be anything. That doesn't mean that's who the person actually is. Cause
Could be anybody.
Yeah.
Especially a person calling themselves Zevcom.
Yes. But yeah.
But people who describe themselves as warriors of heaven rarely have a good sense of humor. In my experience.
Okay.
In general. I'm not.
How many have you encountered?
Well, maybe not more than one, but I guess people who I might believe they had at one point described themselves as a warrior of heaven. It's kind of a strange thing to call yourself. Completely lost his interest.
I'm trying to find stuff on Willow.
Oh, on Willow. Okay.
Yep.
Well, to get to the task at hand, Willow.
I'm trying to
direct.
2 things at once and failing.
Give us some direction.
No. Just so I have something to talk about.
1986. Did you actually rewatch Willow?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
And Angela said I had her watch it because I don't think she'd ever seen it before.
I already made an error. Willow was released in 1988, directed by Ron Howard.
Correct.
One moment. Excuse me. Directed by Ron Howard. Are you marking that?
Yep. I'm all on it for you.
So I can edit it out.
I finally have a purpose on this show.
Now I'm not going to edit it out because it's part of our little banter or whatever. I turned away from the mic. I mean, it did.
Oh, I got it.
It was just huge.
It's not just huge. If you would have done it into the mic, it would have been huge.
I could have
also,
ruptured
I
someone's
probably would have
eardrum.
gotten like
Sprayed.
some arterial spray from it.
Arterial spray? I think I came short of my head actually exploding. Okay, Willow, 1988, directed by Ron Howard. A name everyone who listens to this program ought to be familiar with. If you're not familiar with him, his most recent works are
Okay.
In the Heart of the Sea and Rush, written by Bob Dolman, known for The Banger Sisters and Far and Away.
Please tell me that's a porno.
No, it's a Susan Sarandon and Goldie Hawn, I think.
Of course it is.
And based on a story by another name everyone ought to know, George Lucas, famous for American Graffiti. Of course, American
1138.
Right. Of course, famous for Star Wars and the Indiana Jones films and so much more. Willow stars Warwick Davis as Willow Ufgood, Val Kilmer as Mad Mardigan, Joanne Whaley
Yep.
Whaley as Sorsha, Gene,
soon to be after this, Joanne Whaley Kilmer.
but now back to being Joanne Whaley.
Back to Joanne Whaley.
And
It's a short-lived experience.
Jean Marsh as Queen Bavmorda and Kevin Pollak as the Brownie Rule.
That's a solid cameo by Billy Barty.
That's right. Well, I think it was more than a cameo, right?
Probably. I mean, he's in like 3 scenes. But there's a lot of people in this that it's cool to watch it now because there's people now that I'm like, there's the guy from Bad Santa. There's the guy from Seinfeld.
Right. There's Marilyn Chambers.
Yeah.
Based on the synopsis at imdb.com, a reluctant farmer's quiet life is interrupted when his children discover an abandoned baby floating in the river beside his land. He soon learns of the frightening world outside of his small village and the critical role he now plays in protecting the child and helping to rid the land of an evil sorceress queen. Your thoughts on Willow?
I like Willow a lot. It is a movie I have owned since VHS. I have the old clamshell case of it somewhere in this house.
Exciting.
Yeah. It is a movie that I have never understood why it got hammered so hard by critics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like by any means like this great epic fantasy film, but it's super fun, and I think it's aged really well. I mean, I probably haven't watched it in at least 5-10 years, but it's a movie I used to watch quite a bit, especially back in like college and stuff. I'd throw it in and watch it. Like it's super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Val Kilmer is awesome.
Yeah.
Like he's so good in this. And just in general, like I think it has a pretty good sense of humor. I think it moves along pretty well. It looks like, in terms of like a lot of the design of stuff is really neat. And I just liked it. Like General Kale, I think looks like a badass. Like he's a great looking villain.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it is a movie I have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I've already described it as a masterpiece. I love it. I loved it when I first saw it when it came out. My dad took me. I had Willow action figures. I had a Willow, well, it wasn't a storybook, but it was a book that showed behind-the-scenes pictures, stuff they used to put out in bookstores before everybody saw everything in the internet and everything. But, yeah, incredible performance by Val Kilmer. To me, I think this is the first film I saw with him in it.
Okay. So even before like Top Secret or
oh shoot, yeah, I forgot about Top Secret.
what was the other? What's the college one I can't think of?
A Real Genius?
A Real Genius.
I've never seen that.
Really?
Really?
I think you'd love that.
Is Peter O'Toole in that, or is that the Soda Pop Kid or whatever? No, Peter O'Toole's not in it.
He's not in that.
I haven't seen it. It was on the shelf at the video store when I worked there, but I never threw it in. But anyway, yeah.
He's in Top Gun. Do you remember from Top Gun was before this?
I've never seen Top Gun.
What?
I think we've had this discussion.
We might have to do just a whole Val Kilmer thing. We can do Top Gun. We can do Real Genius. Let's do Thunderheart. Thunderheart's awesome.
That's the one where he's the FBI agent?
Yep.
I've seen that one.
Oh, God damn it.
Is Lou Diamond Phillips in that too?
No.
Oh.
No, he is not.
Well, I have seen that. I have seen The Doors, which...
Have you seen Tombstone?
I have seen Tombstone.
Ghost in the Darkness. I'm
oh, yeah.
saw that.
Saw that in the theater.
Island of Dr. Moreau. Have you seen that?
Seen that.
Okay.
It's got Brando. That was a must-see. So
we'll find a few more.
Heat. I've seen Heat. So I'm not some Kilmer neophyte. I'm aware of the man's work.
Okay.
I saw him in Pollock, where he played Paul Clay.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it... I can't remember who he played, but some artist. And so, yeah, I've seen him in stuff.
Okay.
Did you see the one where he was blind with Mira Sorvino? Wasn't that a...
Blind with Mira Sorvino?
Yeah.
I don't know which one that is.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
No.
There's number 3. We just need one more.
This isn't Challenge. This is the all-new High and Low Brow podcast. Anyway, back to Willow. Yeah.
I know what to use. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Okay.
I'm ready to go.
Back to Willow. You know, how deeply do we want to dig here? Because I'm assuming
I'm
that
fine to go deep as we want.
Most of the people listening to this are probably pretty familiar with the film.
Sure.
But in regards to the film itself, I thought, beautiful photography, scenery, what have you, special effects that still hold up today.
I would say most, if almost all, the effects hold up really well. There's a couple like gag effects that I wasn't a fan when I first watched, and I'm still not now, but it's fine. Like, whatever.
Okay. I shouldn't say all the special effects hold up. The kind of green screen brownie stuff, it can be pretty obvious at times, especially when you're watching it in high def. That's high definition to the unacquainted. Those unacquainted with the technology or the term. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, especially when you consider Warwick Davis, 18 years old when he made this movie.
I believe 17.
17.
He doesn't look it either. I would have never guessed.
Well, it's kind of, Warwick Davis is a little person. Is that what we...
Yeah, he's got a specific kind, like, he doesn't have what... I did some reading up on him after watching this, because why not? And I believe he's called a little person.
Okay.
But he has a specific kind. Let me see if I can find it.
Is it a medical term to say dwarfism, or is that...
I think he is... Dwarfism is the correct term, but he has a specific genetic condition called spondylophysialesia dysplasia congenita.
Really?
Yes. Which is only 30% of dwarfism is caused by, while the other 70% is achondroplasia.
And okay, interesting, because there, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but like stature wise, you can tell there's a little something different about him.
Well, and he's short compared. Like, there's some of them tower over him. They're more than a head taller than him.
And if you think about like a contemporary actor who's a little person, a guy called Peter Dinklage, whom you may know from Station Agent and Game of Thrones and stuff, he's like a whole different shape. He's like just like an extra small person. Mm-hmm. But Warwick Davis has like large hands and long arms. He's kind of. It's almost like his top is closer to the real size, while his legs are really short because he has kind of a wobble when he walks. But he's amazing in this.
He's great. Like,
Yeah.
he's absolutely great.
And for 17 years old, there's some really, really well done moments that show a depth of understanding of the character's emotions
Mm-hmm.
that I was really impressed with. I mean, I'm not going to pick on anybody, but I'm going to say there are a lot of young actors who are not fit to hold his jock. But I won't name names, but he's great. He's great. And Val Kilmer is great. Gene Marsh is great. And the story is a journey.
Yep.
A hero's journey.
Yes.
If you will. And I think that a lot of the criticism, a lot of the criticism that I looked into, a lot of people just saying this is totally derivative of Lord of the Rings. You may agree, you may disagree.
It's pulling from the same idea. Like, I think the thing I liked is it has a little tweak off of the basic, like, hero's journey thing, and how, like, typically when you have the plot of the film is this baby that is going to grow older and kill this evil queen, so she is going to be like this savior, is supposed to be killed, and they put her in this little reed basket that floats down the river, and then Warwick Davis finds him. And in most, like, myths, the story would be about the girl as she grows up. Like, that's what happens in, it's the story of Moses. It's the story of, we saw it with Beastmaster, and, like, it kind of happens with Conan. That's kind of the same kind of idea, where they follow that person as the hero. What's really interesting is they focus on Warwick and Willow Offgood, and it's his journey to help her become a hero, which I think is an interesting twist on the basic myth.
Oh, that's an interesting observation, because you're right. With Beastmaster, Conan, Willow, it's sort of an individual set adrift from, literally and figuratively, set adrift from their familiar surroundings and their fight to kind of gain control of their world or find their place in the world. And really, you would call Elora Danan, the little girl, the baby, who shows up in Willow Offgood's village, she's kind of like works as the catalyst.
Yeah.
And it sets the adventure in motion.
Yeah, it's really like that's the one thing I find interesting watching it now. Like, this is almost like the precursor to her story. Like, in most movies of this kind of style, what we just like this whole 2-hour movie would have been compressed to like a 30-second or 2-minute montage or something like that of her growing up, like what happens and she grows up. And instead they decide, no, let's focus on this and this character, and let's watch his journey and what is most likely her greater story.
Yeah. And the other criticism I ran into of this film is a lot of people felt at least the Willow Offgood elements or the Willow Offgood plot line was formulaic, was the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And I guess because Lucas had previously referred to Joseph Campbell's Man of 1,000 Faces and the hero's journey and that kind of thing, I guess maybe people thought, well, this is a cookie cutter script, but it certainly to me isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're also looking like it's not that far off of a story from Luke Skywalker in Star Wars and what Willow is. Like, you're talking about magic again, and he's getting this wand, and he's learning these powers. Like, it's not that far off from it, and I can see why it was critiqued for it's just Star Wars in a more classic fantasy setting. Mad Mardigan, is he that far off from Han Solo? Not a ton. Like, he's that same kind of charismatic knave.
And you've got the brownies, 3PO and R2-D2.
Yep. Yeah, like I think it can be criticized for that it's a very simple formula that he's using, that he's repeating.
Yeah.
But I think the story is different, and I think it does it in a different way. Like, I think this is far more humorous than Star Wars is. Like, I know Lucas likes to talk about how Star Wars is for little kids. I think this is for younger than Star Wars is. But at the same point, it holds up really well. It's super fun.
Yeah.
It's a swashbuckling adventure. And it goes through, like, the story of Willow is fascinating, and a lot of that is because of how good Warwick Davis is.
Yeah, and it might be a simple story, and it's one that's at least the structure of the story is borrowed from a lot.
Mm-hmm.
More on that later, but it's populated with such vivid characters, and the settings are great, and you can go into a movie saying, of course the hero's not going to die, the hero's going to win in the end, and you can walk into any movie saying that to yourself, and most all the time you're correct, but you're cheating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're not engaging with the film in a genuine way. But yeah, I mean, it's a really fun movie. It's got a great message. As far as the hero's journey structure goes,
Mm-hmm.
there is the interesting thing about that method of interpreting a film is that the hero's journey structure, it's something that we can find by looking at ancient narratives, proto-narratives, as having existed long before modern storytelling, certainly commercial filmmaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're looking for that skeleton behind the story, and you find it there, it's something a little more organic at work. I mean, you can get really mystical when you're thinking about the hero's journey and the shape of a story and that sort of thing. But when you're approaching an interpretation like the kind I ran into at school, like Marxist interpretations of films,
Mm-hmm.
or psychoanalytic interpretations of films and everything, they feel after the fact. It feels disingenuous at times, because there are times when they work, but times when it just feels like, okay, you're forcing this framework onto the story so you can get a term paper out of it.
Sure.
Right? And you can find any film where a train goes into a tunnel, or somebody plugs an electrical plug into an outlet. You can see it as some sort of sexual symbolism or something like that.
Sure.
And that's why those things just never seem to go away. But the reason the hero's journey always seems to be with us and always seems to work is that it does feel organic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a story where pretty much almost all cultures have at some point, from who knows how far back, that are all raised on these basic kind of myths. And a lot of these old stories are all formed from the same basic structure.
Yeah.
And it just feels very natural and feels like, yeah, you just kind of go with it. Like you've encountered this kind of story so many times, it's very comforting.
And it's almost like the sort of 3-act structure that Aristotle's
Mm-hmm.
first sort of hypothesized in Poetics. You can sort of use it as a means of constructing a story, but it's already there, okay, in stories that came before the theory anyway. And it is remarkably interesting that this story is similar to the story of Moses.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to the story of Gilgamesh. It's similar to the Odyssey. And they're spread out over time and time and space.
Yep.
They're spread out. But there's a common thread there, and that's Campbell's genius that he, I guess, found it or
Yep.
quantified it in some way. But it's interesting. It's fun to look at the film and enjoy it as a story, but also fun to analyze within the hero's journey.
Yeah, it is a movie I enjoy quite a bit. Like I think it got hammered on kind of hard when it first came out,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's far better than what it got labeled as. And it's just like, it's not trying to be high art, it's trying to be entertaining, and it's really good at being entertaining.
Yeah, very entertaining film, but there is a meaning there. There is like a spirit to the film that, to my mind, I don't think we necessarily have to directly compare Beastmaster to Willow, but this accomplishes something that Beastmaster doesn't.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Beastmaster is a fun adventure film, but you don't walk away with the feelings that you had watching Willow as when you're watching Beastmaster.
Yeah, I think Willow is far better at getting you to emotionally commit to what you're watching than Beastmaster is. Like, you are invested in Willow's journey and what is going to happen and what's going to happen with him, and to a degree Elora Danan, and what's going on with Mad Mardigan. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is, all this kind of stuff. And it's just...
Well, yeah, and that's also speaks to the I guess the depth of the nuance of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Mad Mardigan had an arc. Sorsha had an arc.
Yep.
Finn Razel, the old wizard, she had an arc.
Yep.
Even like Migosh and Migosh, yes. Some of the other guys like Volnkar and Burgle-Cut and stuff, they remain unchanged, but they're very fun characters, and they have cool names.
Yeah. The names in this are great.
Yeah. And before we go too far into like the hero's journey and whatnot, I want to quick touch on this. I watched this with my friend, and he said that he likes it as much as I do, but he basically summed it up, or he didn't basically sum it up. He did sum it up as very derivative of Lord of the Rings. Okay. Now, it's a fantasy story. It's not epic in scale like Lord of the Rings. Maybe more comparable to The Hobbit.
Yeah, I don't think the scale of this, and that makes more sense to me. Like, this would be the Hobbit story, and what, I can't think of what's the baby's name?
Elora Danan.
Elora Danan, like, her story would be Lord of the Rings. Like, to me, is kind of what the goal of this was. Yeah. Is like, this is the smaller tale that sets up the grand tale of heroic deeds and things like that. And I think that's fair. I guess for me, it's always the comparison for me has always been Star Wars rather than Lord of the Rings. Yes, it's a fantasy setting, and I see why it is. And like, you would have to swap out Elora as the ring, but to me, it just seems way more like Star Wars.
Well, it complicates things if we talk about it in terms of Star Wars, because George Lucas is behind both of these things. But we've had discussions of when something's derivative of something or inspired by something, right?
Yeah.
Mostly in terms of like kind of like nuts and bolts issues like copyright laws and stuff like that, borrowing, artistic borrowing and stealing or something. But when to your mind does a film cease being derivative of something and begin to be sort of inspired by?
Well, I think really what it is he used the framework, story, and character archetypes from Star Wars and transplanted them to a fantasy setting, and then just told a different story. Like, to me, like, Willow is Luke Skywalker, Mad Mardigan is Han Solo. And like you said, C-3PO, R2-D2, Finn Razel is basically Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like, this stuff is all kind of there. It's kind of rearranged slightly differently to kind of see how they'll react differently. But I think, like, the framework to me is so obvious that, like, these worked really well in Star Wars, so let's try it again and let's try a different story.
Okay. But those characters, Han Solo and Mad Mardigan, they're representations of the archetypes on the hero's journey. Yeah. I think you would maybe call Han Solo and Mad Mardigan the tricksters, or something. And the hero's journey template or framework comes equipped with these archetypes.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, that's kind of what he did. Star Wars is without a doubt based off of all that. I think he's admitted to the same thing for that too, that it's heavily influenced by Joseph Campbell. It's heavily influenced by Kurosawa. And like, he took that hero's journey and plopped it onto the Hidden Fortress and goes, here we go. Let's see what we got. and now he's kind of going, all right, let's take this hero's journey. It's kind of framework that I developed with Star Wars, and we're going to plop it in a pure fantasy setting,
Right.
which is basically what Lord of the Rings is, and Hobbit is. I mean, I think both of those tales are very similar. Like Hobbit and Lord of the Rings are the same basic kind of framework story. It's the journey of a hobbit into who he is going to become. It's just one is a much grander tale than the other. And I think like Star Wars is a grander tale than Willow, but Willow is super fun, super like it's playful and it's goofy, but it's the right kind of goofy that's just enjoyable. And yeah, I guess to me, like I can see why he would go, this worked really well, let's try it again and just kind of tweak some things and try it a little differently.
And it feels light and quick for a film that's past 120 minutes.
Yeah, I mean you also think like I'm sure almost everyone in the Nelwyn cast probably all played parts in Jedi as Ewoks. Like it's the same kind of thing where he's like, he probably liked working with him. I mean, he clearly liked working with Warwick Davis. He's Wicket in Jedi. And, you know, he was smart to do that and went, okay, I'm going to write you a movie.
He had a role in the prequels as well.
Yep.
I don't remember what it was, but I remember he was
I think he was different in each one.
Okay.
But, I mean, the guy is... He's great in the Leprechaun movies.
Yeah, he is.
Like he's like the guy is talented.
Very.
I don't know if he is like a huge dramatic actor, but he's really good when you get a good role for him. Like I don't know if he is the actor of like Peter Dinklage, who I think is just is one of the best actors working today.
Yeah.
But Warwick Davis clearly, like if you give him a solid role that he can sink his teeth in, he's going to be good with it. And they gave him this movie. I mean, he's a 17-year-old kid that they put. This is a tentpole film for the most part. Like the goal was that, like Lucas is quoting that he thought it was going to be as big as E.T. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. But for some of us of that generation, of our generation, it is up there with E.T.
Well, and I remember how much they pushed this movie.
Oh yeah,
it was everywhere.
Action figures, everything.
Tie-ins with like, I don't know, Burger King or McDonald's
right,
or whoever
always.
it was, like all that stuff. Like they were all in. Like this was going to be the next big kind of tweener film that kids and adults will have fun with.
And it came up short of expectation?
Yeah, I think it did okay. It made like 60 million, which in 88 is actually pretty decent. But I know it did well in home video.
Yeah, it's had a long life in home video.
And I think over time, like I think a lot of people growing up then like the movie. Like the kids that watched it, I think enjoyed it. Like I enjoy it. I don't know of many people that go like, Willow is a pile of shit. Like no, it's kind of fun. Like
it is. And
compared to like Conan is a very adult like fantasy film. I think Beastmaster is fairly adult. A lot of those at the time, like they were not aiming towards kids, they were aiming towards adults. And this is something like, hey, this is kind of fun. You guys are going to like this. We're going to put some money behind it and have a lot of fun. And I think it works really well.
I wanted to ask you something about when you were talking about Lucas adopting different, I guess, works. You know, you talked about Hidden Fortress, The Hero's Journey, Kurosawa. You talk, his techniques. Like he was in. If you look at Seven Samurai, you can see the wipes and that sort of thing. It's pretty obvious, right? So of course, art does not exist in a vacuum. Yeah, but there is an art to creating something like Star Wars or Willow that hits pay dirt with a group of people, a large group of people in the case of Star Wars. Would you call Star Wars derivative?
No.
Star
Wars, I mean, I think there are parts of it that clearly are. And he's clearly like piecing little bits from here and there. I mean, it's a samurai film. Like the idea, like when you find out after a while that no, this is based on this samurai film about this hidden base with a princess trapped in it, And then
Right.
you watch that movie and you see like there's these two kind of morons running around too.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, this is Star Wars. Like, but at the same point, like, he added a lot of other stuff to it. He added this whole mysticism angle, and he added this like mentor role, and kind like he made it a bigger story.
He did.
Than what it was. And then you toss in the effects, which they're still mind-bogglingly good.
Yeah.
Like, they were so much better than everything at the time. Like, it's crazy. I can't imagine when people went and saw that, like, how their minds had to have been blown. When you look at other sci-fi films at the time, the only other one I can think of that comes even close is Alien.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, everything else, like, when you watch it now, that's like, Jesus, that does not look good. Or it looks of its time. It looks like a 70s film. When Star Wars, you watch it now, the practical effects are great. They still hold up really well. And it's just, he made so many of these other leaps, and he added so much onto it. Like, it became its whole other thing.
This whole world.
Yeah. Like, he had this
Universe.
huge, giant universe that just, it felt so lived in. I mean, and then you had John Williams' score, which is just incredible. Like, so many things in it are, like, people, like, these artists at the top of their game creating some of their most iconic work that all happen to be in one single movie.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's huge.
Yeah. Like, it's just a culmination of all these people hitting at the right time, and just the scope of it just feels bigger than what it is. And so because of it, it's hard. Like, yeah, the story's pretty simple. Like, it's actually really simple. It's really simple.
Right.
But you watch it, at no point do you ever realize, like, all they really went was from point A to point B, and then to point C, and you're done. Like, that's it. That's all the plot was. It was it.
Yeah.
But like, the whole time you're like, it's just thrilling. Like, and it connects with you on this emotional level that simplicity does not mean like lazy or bad or derivative. It can just be like, if you do it right,
Yeah.
it can have its whole this whole other thing. Like, people are all in on it. Like, I see the same thing like with like Mad Max Fury Road. Super simple story. Like, drive from one point to one point and then drive back, and that's the story, the basic framework of what happens with these characters. But then you have everything else that's added up while it's being shot, and suddenly you have this giant feel to what is going on, even though it's a very, very simple film.
Yeah, I wonder if simple's the correct word. Is it sort of graceful? No.
Or
effective?
lean? I don't know what
Efficient.
to use. Efficient. Yeah, like, and we're just talking about plot though. Like, that's
Right.
like, outside of that, like, the character acting makes every part feel bigger and feel more like you watch Star Wars. I don't know anyone that watches it and doesn't immediately, within 5 minutes of meeting Han, you're all in with him. Like, that guy's fun.
Yeah.
I want to see what he's going to do next. And what's going on with Obi-Wan? And Darth Vader scares the shit out of me. And, like, you're just in it. Like, every character, the moment they're on screen, feels realized, feels like this whole complete character, and you just want to see what's going to happen. And Willow does that pretty well. Like, Willow Othgood is really fascinating. Like, they have this, it's a long setup to start this movie. It's a good 20 minutes, if not 30, before he actually leaves the village.
Yeah.
But it totally works because you're invested in who he is and his family and his wife, and God, is he ever going to be a wizard? And is he going to meet his dreams? Like, nobody believes in him. And, you know, all this before he's anywhere.
Right.
And then you start throwing it, and then it's just like, well, let's add these characters, and let's see this, and let's drop in Mad Mardigan, and now we'll drop in Eric from the army going by, and then we're going to drop in, then we're going to remove a few characters. We're going to remove all the others, so it's just Willow, and then we're going to add in the brownies, and now we're going to really ramp up, the scope of the film. And while the plot isn't much, like it's Lucas at his peak, like he was an efficient, effective storyteller.
Very much.
And he didn't do it in plot, and he just did it in like characters, which was what's so fun.
Yeah, you immediately identify with Willow because in the context of like the world, everyone feels small.
Yep.
Vulnerable, insignificant maybe.
Yeah, and like all he's trying to do is be a good father, and you know, all he wants is a plot of land, and he has this dream job he wants
Of being a wizard.
Like he doesn't have grand dreams, he's got very simple basic dreams. And like he's got people that don't think he can do it, and then it's suddenly like everything changes.
Let me take a peek at my notes here.
Okay.
I took a lot of notes. I think I've touched on everything. One thing I wanted to talk about the hero's journey. Commerce is an interesting thing. It's tough to wrap your head around it. I get at least in capitalism, I get what is it called? The invisible hand, our desire towards gain, not necessarily greed, but our desire towards gain, and how something like the hero's journey, after proven to be an effective storytelling tool, okay, what might originally have been something organic, mystical, however you want to put it, can be found as a tool. I did some research on the hero's journey. There's lots of cool stuff on it. I took a story writing class about, 8-10 years ago.
Okay.
Where the hero's journey was taught to us, at least in outline. There is screenwriting software based on the hero's journey that you start a story, the hero's journey framework is there, and you plug in to the framework.
I believe it. Like, it's such a... Yeah, I mean, it's just like the hero's journey is such an old style of storytelling. Like, it makes sense. Like, you drop in a couple different characters, and that's the whole point of the hero's journey, is it has certain beats your main character has to go through to progress on his journey.
Yeah, and the framework and this kind of adoption of it as a storytelling tool. If you've ever seen Adaptation, it's almost like with utter derision. Charlie Kaufman talks like the most rotten and uncreative storytellers in the world are making hundreds of thousands of dollars co-opting the hero's journey and into their shitty screenplays and stuff, but it keeps working.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's part of it where you can get into the debate of whether your interpretation using that framework is sort of the cart before the horse. But I mean, we're going to see a sequel, like a Jack Reacher sequel, right? Okay, there's a hero. I'm sure you can find elements of the hero's journey in there.
Well, I think you can do, like, with so many, like, part of it, I think, is, like, I think there's tons of movies that do it. Jupiter Ascending did it. You have all these movies that come out, like, the Transformers movies kind of do it every movie. Like, it's a matter of, it's done so much, it's now become almost a cliche, like, this is how you tell a hero's journey. Most of the Marvel films are told the same way. Most of the Batman film, like in the Warner Brothers films, like all the comic book movies start very similar, where like here's your unassuming hero who something happens to him and then it expands, like the false reality. Yeah, like
stuff.
all this stuff, like beat after beat, like, and it's all a matter of let's redesign certain little bits, but at the same point, like they're all going through the same journey, and I think.
This transformative journey.
Yeah, I just think it's something like. I think it's something like not only is it a style of storytelling we all recognize, it's all a style of storytelling that it's very easy for us to go, I wish that happened to me.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to transplant yourself into the hero of that story, where like I want that to happen to me. I want some crazy wizard with a lightsaber to show up and go, hey, we're going in space and we're going to go do something.
Yeah.
And you're not just a farmer. You're actually a warrior hero that's going to save a princess and the galaxy. That
is the call.
Yeah. Like, it's like, especially as a nerd, this is the dream. Like, you know, I am more special than anyone realizes. And I think that's something that touches in on everyone. Like, that's the basic idea is I am more special than I realize, and I am more special than anyone else does.
And the way you find that out is by these huge tests.
Yep.
And you never thought you could overcome them.
Yep.
I mean, for you know, even though he's a cop and he's scrappy and smart, John McClane.
Yep.
He's not necessarily a hero until he's presented with this attack on the Nakatomi building or whatever it was called.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, he's almost at rock bottom at the start of that movie.
Yeah,
he's lost his wife. He's barely holding on to his job. He has no shoes. Like, it's all this kind of like, I am not a great guy. I'm failing left and right. He's basically coming there hat in hand to tell his wife, like, I'm a failure. Please give me a second chance. And now, by the end of the movie, he's a hero. Like, he is the classic hero. Like, where he went from the bottom of nothing, and now he's what everyone wants to be.
And this structure lends itself so well to genre pictures.
Yeah, especially well to genre.
An interesting film that I wouldn't call a genre film that feels like a hero's journey film. I'm not ready to, like, throw down and start analyzing it, but the film Up in the Air with George Clooney.
Okay, yeah. He
starts off, you know, he's this guy who's pretty much, he's flying solo. You know, he's his own man. He likes to think he exists on some island, and slowly over time, all his, I guess, perceptions of the physics of reality are challenged again and again. First, Anna Kendrick, this emotional young girl who's trying to do this pretty brutal job of firing people. She can't handle it, and he sees things from her perspective, and it changes everything.
Yep.
And when he arrives at the end of this destination of his journey, he's a changed man. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's remarkable. Yeah, but of course, you know, you can kind of force it onto something, but it works really well with the films it works with.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things that, like, it's like simpatico. Like, they just meld so perfectly. Like, having those themes are almost intrinsic to these science fiction films or these fantasy films. They're supposed to be these big sweeping epics where huge changes are occurring, and it's the little person fighting against the oppression. Like, you can basically, like, same thing with, like, war films. It works really well. Like, all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to turn it into, like, a coming-of-age story, which a lot of these genre films actually are. Like, they're young kids that are learning how to be adults and who they will be. And it's just, you know, Stand By Me is a hero's journey in a lot of ways. And it's like those kinds of things. It's just one of those styles of storytelling I think just everyone instantly gravitates to and understands. So you don't have to do a lot of extra work. And I think that's why they use it so much. It's effective no matter how frequently it's used.
It is effective, and in a way, if we want to get, you know, if I want to get kind of cynical about it, you're giving on some sort of an uninspired hero's journey story. Mm-hmm. Nothing comes to mind immediately, but it's kind of like the McDonald's hamburger.
Okay.
Where people go to McDonald's because they get what they're expecting. And it's fast. Mm-hmm. But they get what they're expecting. And it's also like when you go to a big budget superhero film, it's part of it's spectacle. Yeah. But other than that, you're going to see a hero's story where your traditionally held value or your traditional values are going to be reaffirmed. You're going to feel good. You're going to believe in love for like an hour and a half or whatever. Am I nuts or no?
No, I think you're right. Like, I totally agree.
Well, where are we at? How are my levels?
Your levels are pristine as always.
Can you give me a time?
Well, the time is off because somebody had to have a...
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
We're at 1:24, but we're about 10 minutes will be cut.
Okay.
So
we're nearing the end of our journey. All right. You have anything you want to add?
Our hero's journey.
Yeah, our hero's journey. So
not too much. I am getting into the groove of the new format.
Okay.
And I'm kind of liking it.
We have recorded more in the past 4 weeks than we did in 6 months.
Possibly in a year.
So I think
But yeah, I like the pace we're going at.
Mm-hmm.
I like I'm liking the focus on one. It feels easier. Like not like watching 2 movies was hard, but for some reason this just it feels easier to focus on one and just do it and do what we need to do. And I'm liking doing one a week. Like it's working pretty well, I think.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in again. Are we going to mention what the...
I don't think we should.
No.
I think we should just... When we deal with each theme, like each episode, we deal with that episode. And we can talk about the theme in reference to that episode.
Mm-hmm.
The moment we start adding other stuff, like I think we'll trip ourselves up if we're trying to keep it for people to figure out the orders. Like I think these first 4 we'll do them in the way that we recorded them. But I think with the others, like as long as we focus on the movie that we're reviewing and the basic that in relation to the theme and keep it to that, I think it'll be less likely we trip ourselves up.
And of course, always the brief diversions, but
sure.
At the heart of each episode, we're trying to stick to a single film, part of a larger theme. So, this time, what should we send folks out with this time? Why not enjoy a portion of the track Night in the Desert by Crystal Gale?
I like how you're acting like that's just coming up off the top of your head and not written down.
That actually came off the top of my head. I didn't have one prepared.
There we go.
I had...
Very good.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Midnight in the desert, shooting stars across the sky. It's a magical journey to take us on a ride, filled with the longing, searching for the truth. Will we make it till tomorrow? Will the sun shine on you? Midnight in the desert,